Hello Twitch and welcome to the F1 Manager 23 live stream. Today we're celebrating the launch of the game on Game Pass. So if you've been waiting to play there on PC or Xbox, you can as of today. We're going to be doing all sorts on today's show, but before we tell you what's happening, Alex, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome.
Thanks, Bruce. It's really nice to be here and great to be here to talk about Game Pass some more and hopefully seeing a bunch more players getting into game and having a go at some F1 challenges within F1 Manager on Game Pass.
Yes, super exciting time, a really good opportunity to play if you haven't yet. We're going to be seeing you play a little bit later on, among other things. I'm looking forward to that.
No pressure. No pressure at all.
No pressure. All right. I do expect you to win.
So, demands a lot.
To give you an idea of what's happening on the show, we're going to have two guests joining us in a little bit to tell you about the game, in case you're new, and to tell you about what's new in this year's version. Let's say if you've played the previous version of the game, we're going to share all the new things that we've added. We're also going to be doing giveaways throughout the show, so do stay tuned for that. We've got 3 giveaways happening, haven't we, Alex?
Yeah, it's going to be really good. I mean, we've got, obviously, the opportunity to win the Xbox on the table in front of us, which is really exciting. We'll also have some codes so that you can jump onto Game Pass if you aren't subscribed at the moment, as well as a poster which has been signed by the Haas F1 team principal, Gunther Steiner. So you might remember that from a social post that we did a few weeks back. But we got Gunther to sign a copy of the game's key art, and you'll be able to win that, which has had an actual Gunther Steiner has touched it, which is, I think, quite a big thing.
Very exciting. It's a really cool moment, actually. I've seen the footage where he's seen the poster, big smile on his face because he's seen the key art and he's right there, and yeah, very kindly signed that for us. So that's great. Chance to win that, plus the other goodies that we've just mentioned. So, no need to delay any further, I reckon. We can just get straight into it.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be joined in a moment by 2 special guests, and we'll see you then to get on with the show.
Let's get this underway.
Let's just put our head down.
Stand in on me.
I started to get increased deck on the tire.
What is this?
Just had a snap.
The Red Bull takes the win.
Yes!
The sprint today sees the drivers tackle 19 laps of the Losail International Circuit. Oh, look out!
Right, head down. We'll leave you to it.
So what is the plan?
Okay, so we think a box for Inter.
Copy, box.
You got Verstappen right behind you. Try and hold position.
Yeah, I'm trying, mate. I'm trying.
The competition is certainly tense at the front, with both cars neck and neck. Will we see a change for the lead?
Hello again, everyone. We're joined now by our 2 very special guests from the development team, Dan and Lloyd. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being on. Dan, this is your first time, so I hope you're looking forward to this and excited about it.
Yep.
Very glad to have you here. Lloyd, you're a returning star on the show.
Yep.
What's this, your 3rd time, is it?
Something like that, yeah. I think I've lost count now, so yeah.
For anyone who hasn't seen you before, could you tell us, Lloyd, about who you are, what you do at Frontier, and your role on the F1 Manager series?
Yep, so I'm Lloyd Morgan-Moore, and I am senior producer on the F1 Manager series. So my role covers many, many different things. I'm not going to go into all that detail here because we don't have the time, to be honest. But yeah, lots of different things covered in my role, and you know, I generally get to see all the really cool stuff that people much more talented than me are putting into the game.
Thanks very much. And Dan, again, welcome.
Thank you.
What do you do?
I am a gameplay programmer on F1 Manager, so that means I'm the guy that basically makes half the systems that you see in the game. Well, I'm a part of that team at least. So I work closely with design, I work closely with UI, sometimes art, different departments, and we kind of, put all of their cool creative ideas into the game and, work to make those systems basically.
Excellent, bringing it all together.
Yeah,
Nice.
I kind of like the idea that we're a glue that sort of binds everything together.
Fantastic. Well, as our two resident experts for the show, I'm very much looking forward in particular to seeing your critiques of Alex's gameplay later on.
Be kind, be kind.
Or brutal.
Or brutal, yeah, absolutely.
So, just as a reminder then to everyone watching, we're celebrating the launch of Game Pass today. You guys must be excited for it to be on Game Pass as well, finally now, so that we can have even more budding team principals trying their hand at managing an F1 team.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. I'm a big fan of Game Pass. I'm constantly playing Game Pass games when I get home, so it's awesome. Seeing that there when I go into my Xbox at home is great.
Yeah, it's a really cool service.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And to help anyone who hasn't yet got a subscription, we're going to do our first giveaway now. So we've got 5 Game Pass Ultimate codes to give away for 3 months apiece. So I'm going to get started with that and not delay any further. I've got some T's and C's to read, hence having my notes here. So to enter the giveaway, I'm about to give you all in chat a keyword that you're going to need to type and enter into the chat. The competition is going to run for 5 minutes. So what time are we at now? It looks like, I can't actually see it on screen. It's going to be 5 minutes from now, meaning that after that time, so what are we at? 11 past? Okay. At about 16, 17 past, we're going to close the competition and 5 of you will have been chosen. This is a Frontier Twitch channel only competition, meaning if you're watching on the F1 Manager channel or elsewhere and you want to enter, you're going to have to migrate over to Frontier's Twitch channel, and geographical restrictions apply. The full T's and C's are on our website at frontier.co.uk/legal. So just to check that you're eligible, go over there. That information is also going to be posted in the chat for your convenience. If you do win, you can look out for a Twitch message. We'll contact you directly via Twitch from the official Twitch account at some time after the show. All right, so we're giving away 5 Game Pass codes. I think the most sensible thing is to have you enter !Game Pass over the next 5 minutes for a chance to win. That's !Game Pass, all lowercase, one word. All right, while the chat battle it out over some Game Pass subscriptions, we can crack on with the show. So, Lloyd, Dan, very much looking forward to talking to you about the game. We're going to start off with an overview of what the game is for anyone who is brand new. And we can start that by talking about managing your team. And initially we'll talk about the driver side of that, so managing the talent on your team. We'll be right back to do that. Good luck in the competition.
While teams and cars are a huge part of Formula One, they'd be going nowhere fast without drivers. In F1 Manager 23, developing your drivers and scouting for the future are essential to success.
It's lights out and away we go.
New for 2023 is a completely revised driver development system. Instead of manually allocating stat points based on race performance, you'll now instruct your drivers to focus on general areas of improvement. For example, driving standards will develop skills such as overtaking and defending, while telling your drivers to focus on their wet track skills will help improve their control and accuracy. In addition to race weekend performance, a number of factors will affect your drivers and their development. For example, drivers will receive bonuses from various facilities, with your headquarters race simulator aiding weekly development, while your team hub will provide a morale boost. The new driver confidence system during race weekends will also be affected by driver morale and affinity with their engineers. Ensure team morale is high and that your engineers and drivers have a strong bond to secure a confidence boost going into race weekend sessions, as poor confidence could cause costly mistakes. Each driver also has a development rate that decreases with age, and if your older drivers aren't achieving results on track, you may even start to see their performance ratings dwindle. You'll receive email summaries of how your drivers are developing, so it's up to you to decide how much leeway you give to an underperforming veteran, as it may be time to start to look to the future with younger, fast-improving talent. Speaking of which, Formula 2 and Formula 3 championships are now fully simulated alongside your F1 seasons. You'll be able to see each individual session's results from both of the feeder series, allowing you more insight into who the next rising star might be. So keep an eye on these details when it comes to scouting and hiring the next generational talent. And when it comes to hiring, you can now decide whether to offer a contract immediately or sign a driver for the next season, giving you more options when it comes to how you chop and change your team. With refined development systems, deeper management, and even more simulation, how you handle your star drivers is more important than ever. In F1 Manager 23.
Welcome back, folks. So before we get into some gameplay, and we've got kind of a minute left on that competition if you do want to get involved in that. Guys, for anyone who is completely brand new here and they've never heard of F1 Manager before, for example, can you give us a little description of what the game is?
Yeah, sure. So F1 Manager 23, it's the ultimate official F1 management simulation, basically. You can manage any of the real-world Formula 1 teams. You take over the role of team principal. You can actually manage pretty much everything, right? From car development, car part development, including research for future seasons, driver and staff development. You can manage your facilities. You can even go down to the little details like how long the pit crew spend in the gym. And obviously a lot of that comes back to the finances. There's a lot to do. And then once you've done all of this in the back, then you take it onto the race day and sort of prove yourself, really. And once you're in the race, you've got all sorts of controls there as well to make sure your team can do as well as possible.
Yeah, fantastic. I think we're just about to jump into some gameplay so that we can show you a little bit more of the behind-the-scenes race management before we do go into a race a little bit later on, where I attempt to hopefully successfully manage an F1 team. Whether that goes that way, we'll find out. But I think we are just coming towards the end of the competition, this first competition today. Bruce?
Yeah, so let's pick our winners. I understand that we're just about wrapping up, so good luck to everyone who entered. And any moment now, some names are going to appear on my screen. I'll read them out, and if your name is read, then you've won yourself a Game Pass subscription, an ultimate subscription for 3 months. Something to be aware of is if you do win one of these Game Passes, it won't stack with an existing membership. It's only for accounts which aren't currently subscribed, so that's something to be aware of. We're also going to give away a couple more with the future competitions on this stream, so just so you're aware of that. All right, have we got our winners picked? All right, our producer has got 2 names. I'm gonna float for a little bit. I'm gonna tread water. Alex. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
I want to ask Lloyd a question.
That's okay.
Lloyd, earlier you gave a really good and succinct overview of what the game is. Does it make sense to think of it almost as 2 halves, where you're managing the team on one side, and on the other side it's race day, where you're making the critical real-time decisions?
Yeah, so I guess those are the sort of 2 primary portions of the game, but there's a lot of crossover there. So obviously what you do, what we call behind the scenes, right, back at the factory, has a lot of impact on the circuit during the race, and then during the sprint races and things. So they are technically 2, different areas, but there's that crossover there that's absolutely vital to winning championships.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the glamorous part of F1, right? But like developing your car is essential to winning in the race, right? There's a reason that Red Bull is currently the best team. They are developing their car really well, whereas other teams lesser down are not.
Sure.
So it's, yeah, we really tried to like make that authentic experience of this game isn't just about the racing. Obviously that's a huge part of it, but it's about making sure that you are managing your overall team in a good and effective way.
Yeah, that really appeals to me. I love that we're balancing both the long-term strategy and thinking about, okay, how's this team going to survive over the whole season or future seasons, and also what are we doing on race day to ensure points now. Yeah. That's really nice. Okay, it looks like we've got our winners. I'm going to read out some names. Congratulations if you are any of these people. We're going to be contacting you after the stream to give you one of our Game Pass codes. We have Mulrooney9, Finbig, Nefarious Dr. Bob, Daniel MA13, and O Machiavelli.
I think it's Machiavelli.
Oh, right. Thanks, yeah.
Pronunciation, but it's all fine.
Oh,
It's all
Machiavelli.
fine. Or maybe it is. Maybe that's how they write it out. But yeah, no, congratulations for winning, guys. Really well done. And obviously there'll be more chances to win a little bit later on in the stream itself. But before we go into talking about some of the more sort of details within particularly race management, I think the best way to do that is probably going to be to jump into gameplay. So I have my controller here, and I'm going to navigate you through these menus whilst we have the team talking through a little bit more detail about everything that you can do here. Because as we mentioned, as much as it is about what you do on track, it's also vitally important that you're developing your car, your team, and your staff outside of the race weekends themselves as well. So if we start off with driver development here, I have taken over at Aston Martin. So just before the start of the Bahrain Grand Prix this year. And we're going to start off with some driver development. So this is a feature which is new this year, where we've been able to, where you're able to customize and step into and adjust the different focuses. So do you want to sort of talk us through those?
Yeah, so we kind of rehashed a lot of the staff and driver systems this year. Before we had a very arcadey system of you could put points into specific things, but that just didn't feel quite right for what we were aiming for. So we decided instead to go with this system where you can choose your tell your driver to focus on a group of stats that kind of all loosely connect to each other. So in this example, driving standards, that's stuff like control. So you don't want your driver spinning out, but also stuff like what else was in driving standards? Sorry. You go up to driving standards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Overtaking, defending, reactions. Reactions is the speed off the line, right? These are all things that are kind of the basis of driving. Whereas something like pace is more interested in pace. Long runs is more interested in stats that will help smoothness, right? Making sure you're not ruining your tires. Stats that will make the driver run longer. So that was one of the things we did with driver development. Another something that the community were quite hot on last year was the fact that drivers don't get worse. Obviously, most drivers, unless there's a few, your Fernando Alonso's, your Lewis Hamiltons that do, even at really old ages for an F1 driver, are still incredible drivers. But most of them do deteriorate. So we decided to this time put in a system that allows that to be simulated. So if your driver reaches a certain threshold age-wise and they're not performing in races anymore, then you will start to see their stats deteriorating. And that then gives you the kind of thought of well, do I keep this driver? How long do I keep this driver? Do I get a reserve driver in? Do I keep training that reserve driver? Do I replace this driver now? So these are all kind of changes we made that kind of interlock together to make this system, I think, more interesting this year.
I really like that point where we've introduced a dichotomy where players have to choose quite early on what ethos do they want for their team. Are we trying to squeeze out more success from the established veterans, or are we going to try and scout for the next big player in F1 and then try and find a new winner and foster that talent, even if it means maybe we drop some points in the short term, going for that long-term strategy?
Yeah, it's a decision, right? There's no better or worse answer. The driver that has that higher improvability is probably going to be better in 3 or 4 seasons compared to your original driver. It really depends on, are you aiming for short-term gains or long-term vision? Mm-hmm. It depends on what team you are, what stage you're at.
For the team principals who are interested in the long term and want to find that talent, what can you tell us about the scouting process, and especially bringing in new drivers from the F2 and F3 championships?
Yeah, so in F1 Manager 2023, we now simulate the feeder series. So that means that dynamically F2 and F3 drivers are doing races behind the scenes. That means that, like in real life, there is a kind of, like the drivers that you maybe expect to do well, like your Fiat Pulchers and like last season, your Oscar Piastris. And then there are drivers that maybe you hadn't heard of, and they've kind of just come up. And then, of course, because as soon as you win F2 or as soon as you win F3, you leave it. That means there's a lot more generated staff coming in as well, right? So we have all of these staff that we're generating who are then coming into the system. So what that means is hopefully every player's save should feel unique. That it's kind of your F1 world separate from the real F1 world is being built up. And who's best in my save might be completely different to who's best in your save. So paying attention to it means you might find that diamond in the rough, really, the best
absolutely.
driver.
I love that, and that's a really great point that I hadn't actually considered before, is the ripple effects that your decisions are going to have on what the whole F1 championship looks like a couple seasons from now. Not just in terms of where the teams are doing, how they're doing, but individual members of staff and drivers.
Yeah, it's actually something that we kind of wanted to address across the board in 2023, is this idea of like really emphasizing the your F1 world, that it feels dynamic. It doesn't feel like it's the same thing happening, so people can talk to each other in the community and be like, oh, in my game, Fernando Alonso is still here, but in someone else's game he might have retired like after the first season. Just like having all of these systems that are like dynamic and somewhat random means you can create like a more interesting save that feels more like your save rather than just another save of the game.
Absolutely. Fantastic. All right. We've got a little technical issue going on here, but it shouldn't stop us too much. Just for our producer's reference, we've lost our big TV that we're playing from, but hopefully all of you at home can still see the gameplay. Do you reckon you can navigate the car park development menu?
Luckily, I just had an eye test, so the screen that's over there, I'm all good. So let's talk a little bit about car park development, because like we said, we've just touched there on, for example, the fact that drivers will develop, that staff will come and go, and that across multiple seasons, that whole roster of drivers and staff is going to change. But paramount, and sort of the flip side of that, is that it can't just be your staff and your drivers that are developing, it's also got to be your cars as well. So I'm going to go through the process of just creating a car part here so we can see a little bit more about how that development process works. But do you want to just tell us a little bit more about car part development?
Yeah, for sure. So, car part development is obviously huge to F1, right? Like we were talking about earlier, Red Bull is so good right now because they have an amazing car that they've spent a lot of time developing. So we've tried to emulate that in the game by allowing the player to build their car, right? Build each of their parts. So build a chassis, build a front wing, build a rear wing. When you go into that process, you can decide like what aspects of that part you want to focus on. So maybe like you want your front wing to focus on low speed downforce rather than high speed downforce. And based on how you progress your car and how the other teams are progressing their car, you'll also see teams that started the season maybe at a lower point, they weren't Red Bull, they weren't Ferrari, like jump up the rankings, and suddenly you're being challenged by like Alpine or Mercedes again, right? Like so the part development system is absolutely crucial in this kind of it's probably the biggest system for progression throughout the game, really. It's so crucial to performing well on the race weekend. You have to have a good car behind you.
Yeah, of course. And again, it's one of those things where you're still balancing the long term versus the short term. So if you need a car part now, you can rush that development.
You can, and then you will be paying more money towards the cost cap, and that will bite you later on if you are not careful. So that's another thing that we changed in 23. We really emphasised the cost cap because it's a big part of F1 now. Another thing we specifically did for the part system in 2023 is we introduced this idea of aero durability and inspections. So you have a choice here, you see at the bottom actually, the minimum lifespan. that's basically roughly how long your team predicts that this part will last before the FIA will come with their note board and be like, nope, this
Not
part
up to
is
scratch
not
anymore.
safe for
Yeah.
use anymore. It's dangerous to our drivers. So that's a choice, right? You can either, if you want to save money, you can slam that slider more to the right. But if you want performance, if you want to reduce the weight of your car, then you need to move it to the left. And it's a risk, right? Because it's how it works is every time a race finishes, the FI will come around with their notepad and they will basically say, is your part damaged enough that it fails inspection? And if it does, you're required to replace it. And if that happens too often, then suddenly, and you're not making enough spares, that's another important thing, suddenly you might be left without those parts, and you'll have to put on an old part for a race weekend or spend a lot of money emergency manufacturing it.
Sure.
So it's not just designing and researching the parts, it's also making sure that you're manufacturing enough spares because of this system. So I think that's added a nice, more interesting dynamic to the game.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
year.
Lots of things to consider. At a very top level, for our newer Game Pass players, what are the kinds of things you want to start considering when you're developing your car? Let's say we've just taken over, we're playing as Alpha, aren't we?
Yeah, Aston Martin.
Aston,
Martin,
apologies.
yeah.
We're coming in as the Aston team principal. How are you going to take stock and start thinking about what kinds of car part development decisions we should make?
I usually look at the rank on grid and see where I'm worst at, really. Like, a car that's good across the board is probably going to be the car that's winning, right? Or at least fighting for podiums. So if you have, like at the moment we see the Aston Martin has quite a big weakness in acceleration, right? So maybe we want to do something that focuses on a bit of acceleration.
That
Or
could
maybe
be
we
a good
don't.
idea.
Maybe we want to focus more, our low speed cornering is already great. Maybe we want to just go fully into that. So there's a lot of like stats and stuff here that you can use to determine like where your weak spots are.
Sure.
I also think that aerodynamic testing is a huge part of this, right? You need to make sure you're always using all of your wind tunnel and CFD hours, because if you waste them, then your competitors aren't, and they're going to get an advantage over you. It's very easy to do that if you're not paying attention to when those periods are resetting.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's key to illustrate here is that those aerodynamic testing regulations, those reset a couple of times throughout the season. So you need to make sure that you're using as many of those as you can do. The other thing that I think is I love about designing new parts is the option to kind of look ahead to the future and say, we've seen it throughout the season so far where teams will design upgrade packages around specific weekends. So for example, what you can do is at the bottom we have a selection for highlighting important attributes, and I can go in here and pick. So for example, if I wanted to pick a circuit like Barcelona to bring my improvements to, I can see there as a player, what are my most important attributes for that circuit, what's gonna help me make the biggest step forward at that particular circuit.
Yeah, for sure. There are definitely circuits that low speed and high speed and medium speed cornering are definitely the obvious ones of like, Monaco is a pretty slow circuit, but Monza, it's called the temple of speed for a reason, right? It's fast, it's quick, the corners are very quick. So having the right stats to those circuits gives you a big advantage. It's a trade-off for sure. Like, you don't want to focus entirely on one type of circuit because then you're not performing on the other types of circuit. So as you said, you can design multiple parts. You can use one in one circuit and one in another, or you can just design one type of part and try and be as good as possible across the board.
Absolutely. And I think, I'm changing here, playing around with a different approach. You mentioned there that we can conduct this at a fairly relaxed pace if we want, but also the world of F1, things do have to move quite fast as well. So the opportunity to switch to a more intensive or a rushed approach to make sure that we get that part in as quickly as possible, and the effect that it has on the cost cap. Do you want to just touch really quickly on the cost cap, why it's such an important thing in F1?
So the cost cap was basically put in place in real life F1 to make sure that teams basically couldn't just outspend their competitors, right? So everybody has a certain amount of money they can use. If they go beyond that, then there starts to be penalties. It's the same in our game. There's a cost cap that everybody has. If you go beyond that cost cap, then you're going to start to get penalties, which is a big fine and a big board confidence loss. And if you lose too much board confidence, they will not be very happy and they might even fire you. So definitely something you don't want to do. It's something that you want to keep an eye on at all times, really, making sure that you are being financially wise as well as making car fast.
Absolutely.
And you've nailed it. That was a beautifully put. All right, I'm going to move things along. So we've covered at a top level the development side in terms of your drivers and car. Let's talk a little bit about race day. So we're going to see some of that in action from the maestro himself in a moment here. But at a top level, what kinds of decisions and things are the team principals in charge of on the day?
So you basically work from the very top down, right? So the first thing is obviously your main strategy. So every team is going to set a certain tyre strategy, and that will depend on various things like the temperature on the track, the potential for weather changes, potential for safety cars come into play as well. And so the idea is you set your strategy before the race. You kind of want to assume that your two cars are going to be able to pit at the right times and not clash with each other. And then once you're in the race, you then have control over the finer details. So you can command your drivers to do certain things, whether you want them to push a little bit more at the start of the race and then maybe conserve their fuel a little bit later. Whether you want them to conserve their tyres, maybe push that stint out a little bit longer and hope for a safety car if it's a circuit that's got a high historical safety car chance. You can really go into the details with things like the team command. So, for example, if you want your driver to let the other driver through, perhaps if you want them to move over and let them aside for the championship reasons, you can do that. We've got commands to do that. But this is where everything comes into play. So things like your fuel, your ERS use, your car upgrade parts. Obviously, that's a big part of it. But also things like your driver confidence. That's something that's new for 23 in that your driver will have a different confidence level based on what's happening on the circuit. So if you've got a high confidence level, you might want to tell them to push, go for a risky overtake, and they're more likely to be able to make that stick than maybe a driver with lower confidence might have a bit of trouble with.
They might even crash.
Well, they might even crash,
Their
yeah, absolutely. So if you've got a driver with low confidence and you're really pushing them on old tyres, there's a high chance they're going to have a bit of a moment, let's say. So there's a lot to take into consideration, and then obviously it comes back to things like the facilities as well, because if you've got, say, a circuit where there's a high chance of rain, say your Spa or somewhere like that, then the better your weather centre, the more you're going to be able to react to that and be more accurately reacting to things lap by lap. So, it all comes together quite nicely, I think, once you're on the circuit, and that's where all the action happens. So it's always nice and exciting to watch.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that put into practice by Alex over here, which we're going to do in just a moment. And obviously our experts are going to give you some guidance and advice as we go through it. We'll look at things like that driver confidence going up and down based on how well you do, and hopefully get a good result. So we'll be right back for some actual gameplay in a moment. See you soon.
F1 Manager 23 brings you a whole new way to experience the official 2023 season with Race Replay. Race Replay is a brand new mode for F1 Manager 23, giving you 2 new, faster ways to prove yourself. Starting Grid gives you the chance to rewrite races from the real 2023 F1 season. Choose any team and take on the starting grid and track conditions from a real race to see if you have what it takes to alter history. Pick your own pit strategies and manage your drivers, tactics and tyres throughout the race in a bid for a better outcome for the team. Or dive into the action quickly with Race Moments, team-based scenarios built around real-life mid-race moments that a team has faced during the current season. Take charge of McLaren after a hectic 29 laps at Albert Park and see if you can lead Oscar Piastri to a points finish at his home race. Or join Alpine at the Miami Grand Prix and fight to keep the Ferraris behind by choosing the perfect time for your pit stops. With new starting grids and curated race moments being added to the game following every race weekend, Race Replay is your opportunity to get closer to the action than ever before and prove that no challenge is too tough in F1 Manager 23.
Hello again, everyone. We're about to show you some gameplay from the Race Replay mode, which is brand new this year. And as we talk about it with our developer guests, we're going to have Alex play through Race Replay. So we're actually going to be doing the latest addition to Race Replay, which is from the Qatar GP. We're going to be doing a starting grid, and we'll tell you all about what that is in a moment in case you haven't heard about it. Just as a heads up, the mode we're about to show is different from the career mode, where you have all of the management in terms of driver development, staff development, HQ, car, all of that. This is a mode where you just get into the action right away in line with the real F1 season, but we'll tell you all about that in a moment. If we can just hop to the gameplay and show Alex's screen, what we'll do is in the chat, if you let us know which team you'd like him to play as, Alex will choose based off that. But as a reminder, if you are just joining us, welcome to the stream. Today we are celebrating the launch of F1 Manager 23 on Game Pass, so you can now play on Xbox or PC using your Game Pass subscription. If you are brand new, do check out the F1 Manager 23 website for more information. We've got our news there, there's guides, and if you want to join the Discord just to get closer to the community and talk to other team principals about the tactics they use and all sorts, you can do that from there. All right. Alex, how are you feeling about this? We've got some team suggestions in the chat there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it. There's some, I mean, everyone's going for different ones at the minute, which is great to see that we've got some love for different teams up and down the paddock as well. I think having the opportunity to probably, be pushing for a couple of podiums here, hopefully, or a win would be fantastic. So I'm thinking that based on a couple of what we've seen here, I have seen a few Ferraris, and I am personally a massive Ferrari fan, so I'm gonna not do Ferrari because I don't want to jeopardize. So what I'm gonna do is instead I think I'm gonna go for Mercedes. Obviously, the highest position they had in Qatar was a 4th place, so plenty of opportunity to try and push for a podium on this one. So I'm feeling good, but hopefully the two guys here can give me plenty of tips to make sure I'm getting the best out of my race here this weekend.
All right, best of luck to you. While you crack on, we're going to go back to Lloyd. Hello again. Can you tell us at a top level for anyone who is brand new to this year's version of the game, what Race Replay is all about?
Sure, yeah. First of all, I'm going to give Alex some advice, and that is tell Hamilton to absolutely send it around the outside of the first corner. Nothing will go wrong. So in terms of Race Replay, Race Replay is a brand new game mode we had for 2023. And the idea with this is that when you've seen a race at a weekend, you've maybe watched it live and you've thought, well, I could probably do better than that, or I could do things differently in this particular moment. You can jump in the game during the week after and take part in it. So there are 2 different modes here. Well, 2 different versions of this, let's say. You've got your starting grid, which is what Alex is playing, and you've got your race moments. So starting grid is the full race. You pick a team at the very start, and the real world grid positions are mirrored. You can obviously then choose to take control of that team throughout the entire race, set your strategy, react to on-track action, and the idea is to beat the real world team principal and improve on their positions. And then the race moment is a select moment from within the race, so an exciting pivotal moment from within the actual race, where you take control of a set team at a set moment and you generally will improve upon their performance, right? That's the idea. These are chosen by the team. It's really cool to be able to do this as part of your job. We spend time looking through the races and thinking, well, that would be a cool moment to come up with and let people take control of. And then, you just play through the remaining laps, and the strategy you choose obviously will depend on what's happened in the actual race itself. So we drop you into that at a set moment where the cars are in the right positions. The tyre wear is set up as close as it can be to the real world. If certain things have happened in terms of weather, they'll be reflected as well. So those are the 2 sort of key moments, and everybody who plays the game will be able to have these delivered over the internet during the week after each race.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the summary. I really like what you said about the privilege it is to get to recreate F1 moments alongside the real season in the game as they happen. That's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
Throughout that process so far, I appreciate we're midway through the season. Do you have a favourite race replay? Either starting grid or, well, race moment really I think makes more sense to
Yeah,
have a
race
favourite.
I mean, obviously starting grid is going to be the whole, you've got lots of teams to choose from. So race moments, yeah, for me, I think that I'd probably like the Monaco one. The Monaco one's really cool because obviously, yeah, Fernando's gamble. That's it's the chance to take control of Aston Martin and perhaps win the race, take that win away from Max on the Monaco circuit. So it's a tough one, I will say that much, because obviously the teams that you're racing against are going to react to the weather just as you are, right? And,
sure.
and they know what they're doing. So it's a difficult one, but it's great fun to play, and I like just sitting on board watching the cars go around Monaco from the helmet cam. I think just that alone is really cool to see. So I think that's my favourite.
Great, good pick. Dan, does anything spring to mind?
I think my favourite, and I'm hoping I've got this one right, is the Silverstone McLaren one, because firstly I was at Silverstone, and I'm a big McLaren fan.
Oh, it was a good weekend for you then.
Well, it was, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. And that race replay, that race moment is to make it as good as it could have been, which is to beat Max.
Yeah,
in the
for
McLaren. So yeah, that's my favourite for that reason.
Great choice, great choice. All right, so we're off on the race. Alex, how are you doing?
I don't mean to brag, but we are into P1, so it's been a strong start so far.
You were ambitious with putting George on the medium rather than Lewis.
Well, there you go. You see, I thought we'll mix it up, we'll change it up a little bit. This is what race replay is all for, isn't it? It's for trying these new tactics that might not have necessarily worked during the race itself, and saying, I've seen what happened in the real race. Now I want to have the opportunity to change that myself. So yeah, we're going to try something a little bit different here. We're going to try and push as much as we can. Obviously, tyres and fuel pending, but I'll worry about that later on. At the moment.
Well, he just set a purple sector too, so it's going pretty well for you so far.
Absolutely. I'm going to pop it into visor cam as well, just for a little bit.
I just realised. Maybe it's not as good.
No. We'll jump into visor cam just for a moment, just so we can show this off, because I think this is one of the best ways to watch these really close battles that you get on circuit. Obviously here we've got Hamilton trying to push for the overtake on Verstappen, but the opportunity to get this close and replicating, I guess, similar to what people will have seen during the TV broadcast, right? It's bringing that as close as possible.
Yeah, I think the art team did a really cool job with the helmet cam. It looks really, really good. On 2x speed, it makes me feel a bit sick though, but on 1x speed, it's good.
Fantastic. All right, I feel like we're on time for our second competition. So if you have only joined us just partway through, we're doing a Game Pass live stream to celebrate the launch of the game on Game Pass. Game Pass. And we're doing giveaways throughout the whole show. So we've already given away 5 Game Pass subscriptions. This time we're going to give away a signed poster. And Alex, if you can double task, can you tell us what the poster is, who it's signed by, why it's so special?
Absolutely. The poster is special because it's been signed by Haas F1 team principal Gunther Steiner. So it is a copy of the game's key art, which you'll see a video of him signing it on our social media channels if you hop over there. But yeah, really exciting thing to be giving away. And I mean, it's Gunther. He's a legend. Like as far as team principals go, he's well up there with the greats, isn't he? He's a very quotable man. Very quotable man.
100%. All right, so we're going to give that away, and the winner will also get one of those 3-month Game Pass Ultimate codes alongside the poster. So I'm going to read out some T's and C's. To enter the giveaway, I'm about to give you a keyword that you will need to type in the chat, and the competition is going to close in 5 minutes after I finish reading out this spiel, so around 4:55 if you're in the UK. This is a Frontier Twitch channel only competition, so it's not on the F1 Manager channel or YouTube or anywhere else that you might be watching. If you do want to enter, come join us on the Frontier Twitch channel. Geographical restrictions will apply, so make sure you check the full T's and C's at frontier.co.uk/legal. This information is also going to be posted in the chat. So again, at the end of 5 minutes, we're going to pick out one winner for a signed poster and Game Pass subscription. If you are that winner, keep an eye on your direct messages on Twitch. We'll contact you after the show to let you know and get that prize to you. So the keyword is going to be !poster, one word, obviously it's one word, all lowercase in the chat please. Good luck over the next 5 minutes.
And now we're 1-2. Incredible.
1-2.
1-2. The magic.
Excellent.
This is why I was brought on the stream, let's be honest.
You're nailing it.
A
You're nailing
1-2,
it.
yeah.
Really well done. Okay, so carrying on with the show, we have some exciting updates that we've launched since F1 Manager 23 originally went live, and we're going to talk about those. The first of which is going to be team switching, which is a huge deal. Really excited to talk about that, so we'll be right back to tell you all about it.
Let's take a look at the brand new team switching feature in F1 Manager 23. The ability to switch teams is based on a new attribute, the Team Principal Rating. This rating determines how highly you're respected around the paddock and is instrumental when it comes to securing job offers from other teams at the end of a season. Your Team Principal Rating will fluctuate throughout your career, moving up or down depending on how well you accomplish the objectives set by the board. The higher your rating, the more chance of securing a job at one of the top performing teams on the grid. Teams' requirements will change based on their own performances, allowing for a more dynamic and authentic reflection of the sport than ever before. Of course, in the challenging environment of Formula One, things don't always go to plan, and a poor season could result in being fired by the board. If this happens, your Team Principal Rating will drop, and you'll have a new option to rebuild your legacy with another team lower down the field. Team switching is available in F1 Manager 23 now, and is compatible with your current save file. So there's never been a better time to start building your legacy.
We're going to be talking about team switching now that you'll have seen a feature focus video for just now, and we're going to go into some more detail. As a side note, if you do want to see all of those feature focus videos to get a better idea of what's in the game, what we've added, and all that sort of thing, head over to our YouTube channel. You'll see those, you'll see previous live streams and all sorts of content that's well worth watching, so do join us there. All right, team switching. What did it bring to the game?
Well, it's something we were very excited about bringing to the game. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier about building that F1 world. Like, it gives you the ability to switch to another team, right? So, like, let's say that you build Aston Martin into a monster and they're topping the champ. You've won like a championship with them. You've made this incredible team. Well, what if you switch to a different team and now you have to fight the monster you created? What if you see you finished your 2023 season and you see that Carlos and Lando are back together at McLaren. You're like, oh my God, I love that pairing. I want to go to McLaren. Well, now you can. So we put in team switching basically to add longevity to the game, right? Like that's the primary goal for it. Yeah, it's a feature I've been really excited about, and now it's in players' hands.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a big change. Players from the 22 version will be, hopefully not too many of them familiar with, but inevitably some of them will be familiar with getting the can after failing the board's objectives.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's a good point, yeah.
So that's different now.
Yeah, exactly. So team switching, it gives you an alternative, right? So if you get fired, in the team switching feature, we have this new stat called Team Principal Rating. So at the end of every season, based on your performance and how you perform based on the board's expectations, it will go up or down. And then based on that will determine which teams you can switch to. So it's not like you can come last in Williams, get fired, and then suddenly join Red Bull, right? Like, there's some realism here that you have to do well, and you have to So it means if you pick a low-level team at the start of the game, you can kind of like climb your way up, which I think is a really cool way of looking at it.
I love that. Yeah, climbing the ladder. It could be a really nice way to play. Is starting deliberately at a lower team and then having the long-term objective to say, I want to turn this team into champions and then move on to the next one. And as really focus on your long-term career as a team principal, but yeah, not tied to any one team, and creating that legacy for yourself. And as you say, competing against old teams that you'll have built up is a really cool idea as well.
It's really fun to, like, you know, you sign all the best drivers, you have all the best staff, and then suddenly you're fighting against them, and you have to slay the monster you've made.
Yeah, really, really cool. So that came in update 1.6. And yeah, it was a highly community requested feature. So really nice to deliver that. It must be satisfying to listen to calls for things like that and be able to add them to the game post-launch.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. And the next feature we're going to talk about was another similar thing that the community has always been quite, you know, said they wanted, and it was something we were happy to realise in the post-launch of 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. You're doing a better idea of keeping the script. You're doing a better job of keeping the script in your head than I am, because we're going to move on to 1.9, which has just launched. So congrats on the launch. That was Monday, wasn't it, this week?
Yep.
What did we introduce in 1.9?
We introduced game difficulty to the game for both car development and for the race simulation.
Absolutely. So at a top level, I suppose, before we had difficulty settings, the way the game worked was we've created the most accurate simulation that we can, and we always aim to improve the accuracy of it, and you're competing against that. Whereas now we've got settings where you can actually customize the level of challenge on two different fronts. Is that right?
Yes. So So one of the things in 22 we heard, a lot of feedback we heard was the game was quite easy. In 23 we heard the game was quite hard from quite a few people. So the obvious solution is to add some kind of option to allow you to configure those things. So in car development, that determines like how quickly or how well basically your the AI is keeping up with the player in terms of how they're developing their parts. And then for the race simulation, that's more, basically the AI starts to, use more of the tools it has available to itself and use them more efficiently, right? So there's no cheating with the race simulation AI. It's just playing better.
Sure. Well, I'm going to ask you a bit more about that in a moment in terms of the different settings, but I do want to call out our winner from the competition that we just ran for the key art poster for F1 Manager 23, signed by Gunther Steiner, the team principal of Haas. So congratulations to Aaron1501. Well done. We'll be in touch with you after the show via Twitch. So do keep an eye out on those DMs, and congrats once again. You're also going to receive a 3-month Game Pass Ultimate subscription. So well done and congrats. Anyone who still wants to win a prize, do stick around, because towards the end of the show, we're going to build up towards our final competition to win the Xbox that's on the table in front of us. That's an Xbox Series X, which will also come with another Game Pass code. So do stick around for that. But congrats once again to Aaron. All right, Dan, so we were just talking about difficulty settings and the split between race difficulty and car development difficulty.
Yep.
And you were saying before that we've got settings for the race difficulty where the AI is just getting increasingly better at using the same tools that, say, Alex is using right now to manage his team.
So yeah, it will literally do things like micromanaging its ERS on hard. Things that if you're not doing as a player, then suddenly this AI might be doing better than you, right? Like, so it was a really cool to be able to like put in that difficulty not artificially and actually, make the game harder with the tool set that the player has, right? You can definitely still outplay the AI. It's just harder to do so now.
Sure. There's an inherent fairness to the AI using all the same levers that players have access to.
Yes. Yeah. I'd say so.
All right, and then on the car development difficulty side as well, so this is the other half of the difficulty settings. What can you change on that front?
So on medium, so one thing to mention actually, the medium setting for both of these is kind of what 2023 was when the game released. So on easy, medium, and hard, what you'll find is that the AI will be making advancements in their part development at a higher rate on hard and at a lower rate on easy. So if you think the races, if you're not very good at micromanaging the races, but you want a harder challenge, then maybe you whack up the car development to hard and you leave the race simulation on medium. Maybe if you don't really want to do so much of the management stuff and you just want to focus on the racing, then maybe you do the opposite. Maybe you put racing on hard and the car development stuff on medium. So yeah, they kind of both speak to different elements of the game. The one is the car development system and the other is the actual races themselves. So
That's really nice to have, to be able to adjust those independently of each other based on which area of the game you want to be more challenged by. That's a really nice thing to have.
Yeah.
Excellent. Lloyd.
Hello.
What do you make of Alex's progress here today?
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, you've got quite a big gap there between your two drivers. I think there's some interesting tactics.
Has Lewis pit a second time?
No, he's just about to pit now.
Yeah, so I think that it looked very bright at the start until you realised you were really burning through those tyres at quite a hot circuit.
I mean, I think it's done a very good job of showing the audience about how important tyre degradation and tyre temperatures are this year. So I'm doing good work in showing you how to badly
very well demonstrated.
Play. That's nicely smoothed over.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the plan.
Well, now you know that maybe the strategy they did in real life was better.
Absolutely. It's always a possibility that the real team principals may be a slightly better team principal than I am. But I'm going to ignore that for the moment and insist that Hamilton will bring it back. And hopefully we can recover George into the top 10. That's the plan now. That's what the aim has become. Yeah, or safety car, there's always opportunities.
Absolutely. Anything can happen.
I think it's really interesting when you play things like this as well, when you can compare it to real life, because at the start, obviously, it looked like you were taking the lead on Verstappen. And I saw a few people in the chat saying, oh, Verstappen's in second. That might not be fully realistic. It's like, well, if Mercedes were telling their drivers to push that hard at the start, it might be. But this is where strategy comes into play. And maybe Red Bull in the real world do this as well, where they bide their time, their drivers are very smooth. Max especially is super, super smooth. He can conserve his tyres really well while maintaining his speed, and you see that reflected in the game. Obviously, if you look at the top two there, Verstappen, Perez, I'm sure people are familiar with that. This is where the real life
you can get
strategies come into play.
You can definitely get Checo before this race is over.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
You got this. You got this. All right. Well, what I'll do then, just so that we can see out the end of this race, is I'm going to run the third and final competition of today's stream. So if you have joined us in the most recent parts of this stream, welcome. It's great to have you here. We're from Frontier, and today we're celebrating the launch of F1 Manager 23 on Game Pass. So you can now play it with your Game Pass subscription as of today on PC or Xbox. So we do hope that if you haven't played before, you will join us, or if you played F1 Manager 22, that you're going to give it a try in the new version of the game using Game Pass. So, all right, our third competition then. We're giving away an Xbox, a Series X, which is on the table in front of us here. So a very mighty prize. Good luck to everybody. We're also going to give you a Game Pass subscription to go along with it for you to play F1 Manager 23 with, so that you'll all be set to get on the track and see if you can do as well as Alex is here on the show today.
There you go.
I was going to say as well, you won't have a white controller with yours. That's just for demonstration.
That is for sure.
Yes.
That's for sure.
You will get a black controller with your black Xbox, but this is a demonstration model that we have in the studio. But I've recovered now. Look, Perez has dropped back off again. He had to pit, but we'll ignore that. We'll assume that I overtook him through great use of the driver tactics menu. But we've got a nice lead now ahead of Piastri. I don't think we're going to get Max, unfortunately, but we've still improved on the real race weekend. You see in the corner on the right, the objective is a big tick. So I'm going to take that as a job well done, assuming I finish where I am now, of course. But we've only got a couple of laps left to go. So just enough time for us to wrap up the end of the competition, I think, which is well timed.
Absolutely. All right. Best of luck to you. So while you do that, I'm going to read out some T's and C's for anyone who wants to enter this giveaway to win the Xbox Series X along with a Game Pass subscription. So to enter this giveaway, I'm about to give you a keyword that you will need to type in the chat. The competition will close in 5 minutes. So that's going to be approximately 5 in UK time. And after that, we're going to pick a winner to win the prize. This is a Frontier Twitch channel only competition, so it's not on the F1 Manager channel or elsewhere. If you do want to enter, make sure you come over to the Frontier channel on Twitch and enter there. Geographical restrictions do apply, so check the terms and conditions for full details at frontier.co.uk/legal. This information is also going to be posted in the chat. If you are the lucky winner, keep an eye out for a Twitch message, a direct message on Twitch from the official Frontier Twitch account after the show to confirm that you've won and arrange delivery of your prize. Okay, so the key word for this is going to be !Xbox, all one word, lowercase, in the chat please, and good luck to everyone over the next 5 minutes where we'll pick the winner. All right, so we're in the final lap.
Yep.
You reckon you can hold this?
I think I'll be okay with Hamilton. I did have a small issue because there's a plant obscuring the amount of fuel that's in George's car, which is the reason I did not see that he was under-fueled.
It's this innocent little cacti's fault,
I'm going to blame it on the placed plant rather than my own inability to manage. But hopefully I've put him onto conserve so we can hopefully get him to the end of the race. But
he
Lewis,
might be rolling to a stop, is what I'm hearing.
He could possibly do that, but we're going to hope for the best. I think that's what all team principals do, don't they? They hope for an amount of it. They get to the last few laps, and then I think it's I hope we put enough fuel in the car.
You'll be fine, I think.
Yeah. So maybe. There you go, some real drama at the end of the race. But I think usually it's will there be a last lap overtake rather than will the car run out of fuel. But so we've got Max has just won the race, but P2 for Lewis. So that is an improvement on the real world race. So as I mentioned, you get the little tick in the corner for the objective to say that yes, you did improve on the real team principles work in that race. So my job spec will be going over to Mercedes after this. After this race, I'll be writing my letter to Toto, but let me see if Russell is going to make it. He is. He's now got enough fuel to make it to the end of the race.
Nice.
And it's both Mercedes is in the top 10, so 2 sets of points scored. Happy days.
Well done. I think some congratulations are in order.
Nice.
Lloyd, Dan, what do you think of Alex's performance overall?
I think P2 of Hamilton's pretty good.
Yeah, I think you pulled it back there. I think there was some scary moments at the start, but you managed to pull it back and get them into some good positions.
Unfortunately, Max is a machine, so to beat him is
I'm happy.
challenging.
I'm happy with that. I think getting Hamilton there. We had a moment where I thought, am I going to have a Mercedes 1-2 on stream? It's going to be the culmination of my life's work, and it's just eluded me ever so slightly with George.
Poor George got sacrificed to the dogs a bit though, right?
He did a little bit, but I tell you what, I've had a lot of fun with this. It's one of the best things about race replay for me is the fact that you can just pick it up and relive that previous race weekend that's just been, whether it's the starting grid scenario that we were playing through here or the race moment where you're able to relive and sort of change the outcome of a real moment from within the race itself. So it's great to do that.
And there he is on the podium.
There he is, a well-earned spot.
So this is where you do this is where all your efforts pay off, and we've actually been running things like this in the office. If people want to play in their free time and have a bit of a challenge with each other, we've set that up as well. It's great fun.
Fantastic. All right, on that happy note, I'm going to say thank you so much, Lloyd and Dan, firstly and foremostly for all of the work that you've done on this game. It's fantastic. Really excited to get it in the hands of more people now via Game Pass. So thank you for all of the hard work that you've done and being with us here today to celebrate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
For those of you still in chat, we're going to be right back to confirm the winner of our final competition and wrap things up here on the show. So we'll see you in a moment. Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for watching the show. We hope you enjoyed our conversation with our two developer guests, Lloyd and Dan, who gave an overview of what F1 Manager is all about, as well as what's new for this year. So if you are thinking of playing the game, now's an excellent time because it's out on Game Pass as of today. So you can play on Xbox or PC with an existing or new Game Pass subscription. Alex, how's your time been on today's show?
You know what? I've had a lot of fun, actually. It's always great to hear the team talking more about the work that they've put into the game. And I think for people to see, you know, with how passionate we are as a team about the sport. You know, one of the great things about being part of the F1 Manager game is that you get these real moments where you're looking at the real drivers, the real circuits, and the involvement with that. It's so much fun. I love it.
Excellent. Well, we hope you lot have had fun as well. And as a part of that fun, we've been doing giveaways throughout the whole show, and we're about to wrap up with the biggest, well, I say the biggest. I think it's the biggest one, but I suppose it depends how much you like Gunther Steiner, because we gave away a signed poster, which was pretty cool as well. So maybe it's tied. And of course, we had 5 Game Pass winners right at the start of the show as well. But for this one, we're going to announce the winner of the Xbox Series X that's on the table in front of us and also comes with a Game Pass subscription. So, can I get a drum roll or some jazz hands or whatever it is? Congratulations to Tanahashi in the chat. Tanahashi, well done. Congratulations, you've won this Xbox in front of you. It's going to be all packaged up nicely and sent over to your house at some time after the show. We'll be in touch via DM on Twitch to arrange all of that. All right, I think that's a wrap then, isn't it, Alex?
It is, it is. I hope you've all really enjoyed joining us today. It's been great seeing so many people in the chat. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I've enjoyed your words of encouragement. I might have been quite focused on trying to make sure that we were doing a good job here, but I appreciate all the support. And for anyone who didn't win on the competitions this time, commiserations, but there will always be more opportunities to win different things on social media and such. So.
Absolutely. On that note, do make sure you follow us at F1 Manager on Twitter. We're on Facebook, YouTube. There's also the website if you want to check out our news and stay up to date with the game there. You can join our Discord server. There's a lot of players there, a lot of team principals talking about tactics, strategies, and all sorts. So do get involved in the community. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you there. I think that's it. So special thank you, Alex, for joining me on today's show, as well as our developer guests that we had earlier on. Thank you, Dan and Lloyd. Thank you to our producer in the back there for running the show for us, our moderators in the chat who always take care of things. Thank you so much. And finally, all of you for watching. We really appreciate it and we hope you've had a good time. We will see you out there, team principals. Goodbye for now.